can't just decorate Valentine's Day. There is like, Valentine's Day is about, giving gifts, and it's really just a holiday to just make money and, give cards, and Valentine's, all of that. So to turn it into a theme, we either have to lend into it's a serial killer, because that's what, a scorned lover is what they always end up doing, or vampires.
We've also been doing vampires for a long time, so it's kind of in that thing of like, how many different ways can you do a vampire,
Well, it's a little bit of a twist, and it's a little bit of fun, and it's vampires, so, and they're kind of romantic, and it's fun, so it's not as crazy bloody monsters. You got bloody vampires.
We found a really nice niche with it being 80s, so we use a lot of 80s, new wave.
It was really just Faust sitting down and being like, hey, it's the manor is going to be regal vampires and vampire hunters. So it's sort of like Castlevania, sort of like Interview with the Vampire. And then there's going to be 80s vampires like The Lost Boys. And then there's going to be Halloween, which is like pastel goth.
Our selfie museum, we're branding it as Halloween, which is a cross between Valentine's Day and Halloween, and it's still really in its infancy in our industry. Not a lot of haunted houses. If you Google it, you're not going to really find, I doubt any haunted house using that. I wanted it to be very pastel goth, and then the other side, I came up with Pastel of the Living Dead, which is just, again, hyper stylized suits and colors, whatever that, Matt Knife executed beautifully.
Well, I think it's a really big collaborative effort. I think we all work really well together, and then we kind of just go off of the worlds that Faust and Casey and everyone else are creating, and then kind of supplement, add to that with all the costumes and stuff.
We don't have a whole lot of time, so depending on the complexity of what we have to do, it could be tight. I built a big prop, and I was down to the people were coming through as we were nailing stuff up.
It's a lot the week before, usually. We usually do a rehearsal with all the actors, so that's like a big thing for us to be able to figure out, okay, maybe we set up this scene for this actor to come out of this and hit this speaker scare, but we figured out in rehearsal, hey, that doesn't work. So that's a really good opportunity for us to look at the things that we have set up and change them and do them better. We do a lot outside because we don't really set up our lot until the week before. It's a lot of really boring stuff, like running cable, running extension cords, uncovering the photo ops, putting out the animatronics and stuff like that. We also have to deal with things like merchandise, so we get in for the individual bins. The week before it's definitely a lot.
Is there anything that you didn't think you were going to be able to finish, but got really happy when you actually were able to?
Yeah, in fact, I can show you guys. This way. I made that. That was a big puppet. All right, so that was the monster. I started designing it in December and had to be ready by September.
Right.
And it was down to the wire. That was a big project here. That's my biggest one so far.
It's just tapping into, I feel like costume designers, we play around with icons and iconography. So it's like, you say wizard, well, what pops in your head? Like a robe and maybe a pointy hat, or Harry Potter or something like that. So if you rip off a Harry Potter character, throw it in there, someone's just gonna automatically go, oh, there's that. So it's the same with the Lost Boys. I think a lot of these people are gonna be like, oh my god, it's like the Lost Boys. It's like punk vampires.
Yes. I think that this season especially has a lot of our personal touches, just because we were able to go through the entire process of kind of meeting with Faust and then talking about what they were looking for, and then kind of going through and thinking about what we wanted them to look like, and then what we already had and what we could add to it to kind of amp it up a little bit.
I think it's the people, honestly. Because I moved here, I'm from San Antonio, and I knew nobody here. I just this was one of the first things that I did whenever I came to UT, and just the camaraderie that you had between all of the people here, because it's a tough job. It can be really difficult. It's long nights, very physically intensive, and so it's kind of everybody kind of comes together, and you get to know some super awesome people here. So it's that thing where it's hey, are you gonna do this event? I'm gonna do this event, and so you're okay, cool, I'll do that event, and then it kind of just becomes a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Costuming production is stressful, so you have to like it, and then also look around, this is really fun. Like, I mean, if you don't like stuff like this, or if you don't want to have fun, why would you be here?
And then it's also like, you know, you want to climb the ladder and be like, oh, I want to take on more responsibility. And that kind of just like happened over the course of 8 years.
Since I work in film a lot, and so it's like, you know, a project-based career, it feels like the first day of school all the time. And it feels very nice to have something consistent that I can come back to, like the community that I can come back to. Like even if I'm, you know, off doing like a film or whatever, I can come back here and it's like, you know, usually a very similar group each time. And so it feels like we can really get to know each other and we spend a lot of time together.
But it's very fun, and I feel like it's very accepting, and I feel like it's a nice place to be. I feel very comfortable.
You got to cut through the static because everybody's going to use a spooky Cupid, or they're going to use somebody all in white covered in blood, or some little serial killer with a mask and a suit, or a teddy bear, you know. So we got to cut through that static and kind of do our own thing. And I think we did a good job with that this year.